Good evening and welcome to a special virtual edition of Poems for Peace on this, the International Day of Peace. My name is Dianne Donovan from Classical 89.5 Radio, and I'm delighted to be hosting tonight's program from a very special location at the Umlauf. Our small team has been invited into the home of Charles and Angeline, or Angie Umlauf, and specifically the office where Angie wrote her poetry. Many Austinites know Angie Umlauf through her role as matriarch of the Umlauf family and her service to the Holy Trinity Episcopal Church. For over 50 years, Angie took care of the business side of her husband's art practice. She shifted her focus from making her own art to writing poetry, and was known for her beautiful handwritten letters and often included a personalized poem. Her book of verse was published in 2007. In 1985, she and Charles bequeathed their home and gardens, his studio, plus hundreds of sculptures to the city of Austin to create a lasting public treasure we know today as the Umlauf Sculpture Garden and Museum. One of the many sculptures in that collection is the 1956 cast stone sculpture called Poetess, which pays homage to Angeline. There is perhaps no more appropriate place in Austin from which to share tonight's program. Poems for Peace is presented by Peace Day Austin and is just one of a number of unique citywide events held this month in celebration of International Peace Day, which takes place each year on September 21st. Peace Day Austin is a local initiative made up of various organizations that encourage participating in and observance of International Peace Day, which was established by the United Nations in 1981 and adopted as an annual day of nonviolence in 2001. Poems for Peace began in 2012 by the Subud International Cultural Association and was later spearheaded in Austin by Latifa Tormina, prior member of the Austin Arts Commission and former executive director of the Austin Creative Alliance. Tormina also found Peace Day Austin and has been joined by a growing number of organizations and businesses, including Global Austin, Compassionate Austin, Interfaith Action of Central Texas, Classical Music for the World, United Nations Association of Austin, Austin Community College, Motley Crue Media, Zach Theater, Umlauf Sculpture Garden and Museum, Amy's Ice Cream, and KMFA Classical 89.5, and others. Chilean poet, diplomat, and politician Pablo Neruda once said, "Poetry is an act of peace." It is in that spirit that tonight we celebrate this global initiative to explore and celebrate what peace means to each of us through the simple act of sharing poems for peace. We have 8 incredible guests who will share poetry with us tonight. So without any further ado, let me welcome our first reader, Robert Ferris. Robert is the arts editor for the Austin Chronicle, where he's been covering the local art scene for more than 30 years. In 2019, he was inducted into the Texas Institute of Letters. American Theater magazine has named him to the list of 12 of the nation's most influential theater critics, and his writing has been recognized by the Association of Alternative News Weeklies. On stage, he has conducted interviews with Stephen Sondheim, Susan Sarandon, and Nobel laureate Steven Weinberg. He also has been active in local theater since 1980, having worked on more than 75 theatrical productions across the city as an actor, director, and writer on more than 85 projects on stages all across Austin. Among them, his own one-man adaptation of Shakespeare's Henry V. Robert is also one of the founding members of Poems for Peace. It's always a treasure to hear from Robert Ferris.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be a part of Poems for Peace one more year. As someone who's been a part of this tradition since the beginning, it's become something very special to me. and I always look forward to being able to share some special poetry with you. The first poem that I have this year is by someone we often consider local. She's based in San Antonio, but we see her up in Austin a lot, Naomi Shihab Nye. This is The Traveling Onion by Naomi Shihab Nye. Quote, "It is believed that the onion originally came from India. In Egypt, it was an object of worship. Why, I haven't been able to find out. From Egypt, the onion entered Greece and on to Italy, thence into all of Europe." End quote. Better Living Cookbook. When I think how far the onion has traveled just to enter my stew today, I could kneel and praise all small, forgotten miracles. Crackly paper peeling on the drain board, pearly layers in smooth agreement, the way the knife enters onion and onion falls apart on the chopping block, history revealed. And I would never scold the onion for causing tears. It is right that tears fall for something small and forgotten. How at meal we sit to eat, commenting on texture of meat or herbal aroma, but never on the translucence of onion, now limp, now divided, or its traditionally honorable career, for the sake of others, disappear. The next poem is by Tony Hoagland, who was not from Austin, but he taught at the University of Houston and clearly spent some time here, as you can tell from this next poem, Barton Springs by Tony Hoagland. Oh, life, how I loved your cold spring mornings of putting stuff in the green gym bag and crossing wet grass to the southeast gate to push my crumpled dollar through the slot. When I get my allotted case of cancer, let me swim 10 more times at Barton Springs in the outdoor pool at 6 a.m. in the cold water with the geezers and the jocks. With my head bald from radiation and my chemotherapeutic weight loss, I will be sleek as a cheetah. And I will not complain about life's pedestrian hypocrisies. I will not consider death a contractual violation. Let my cancer be the slow-growing kind, so I will have all the time I need to backstroke over the rocks and little fishes, looking upwards through my bronze-tinted goggles into the vaults and rafters of the oaks, as the crows exchange their morning gossip in the pale mutations of early light. It was worth death to see you through these optic nerves, to feel breeze through the fur on my arms, to be chilled and stirred in your mortal martini. In documents elsewhere, I have already recorded my complaints in some painstaking detail. Now, because all things are joyful near water, there just might be time to catch up on praise. The next poem is also by Tony Hoagland and makes, I think, a wonderful companion piece, as it also deals with mortality and life and how best to spend life. Distant Regard by Tony Hoagland. If I knew I would be dead by this time next year, I believe I would spend the months from now till then writing thank you notes to strangers and acquaintances, telling them you were a really great travel agent, or I never got the taste of your kisses out of my mouth, or watching you walk across the room was part of my destination. It would be the equivalent, I think, of leaving a chocolate wrapped in shiny foil on the pillow of a guest in a hotel of earth where we resided some years together, I start to say, before I realize it is a terrible cliche, and stop, and then go on, forgiving myself in a mere split second. Because now that I'm dying, I just go forward like water, flowing around obstacles and second thoughts, not getting snagged, just continuing with my long list of thank yous, which seems to naturally expand to include sunlight and wind, and the aspen trees which gleam and shimmer in the yard as if grateful for being soaked last night by the irrigation system invented by an individual to whom I am quietly grateful. Outside, it is autumn, the philosophical season, when cold air sharpens the intellect. The hills are red and copper in their shaggy majesty. The clouds blow overhead like governments and years. It took me a long time to understand the phrase distant regard, but I am grateful for it now. And I am grateful for my heart that turned out to be good after all, and grateful for my mind, to which, in retrospect, I can see I have never been sufficiently kind. The final poem I have today is by the great Derek Walcott. It has some threads from previous poems I've read, and it felt like a very appropriate way to close. The Season of Phantasmal Peace by Derek Walcott. Then all the nations of birds lifted together the huge net of the shadows of this earth in multitudinous dialects, twittering tongues, stitching and crossing it. They lifted up the shadows of long pines down trackless slopes, the shadows of glass-faced towers down evening streets, the shadow of a frail plant on a city sill, the net rising soundless as night, the birds' cries soundless, until there was no longer dusk or season, decline or weather. Only this passage of phantasmal light that not the narrowest shadow dared to sever. And men could not see, looking up, what the wild geese drew, what the ospreys trailed behind them in silvery ropes that flashed in the icy sunlight. They could not hear battalions of starlings waging peaceful cries, bearing the net higher, covering this world like the vines of an orchard, or a mother drawing the trembling gauze over the trembling eyes of a child fluttering to sleep. It was the light that you will see at evening on the side of a hill in yellow October. And no one hearing knew what change had brought into the ravens' cawing, the killdeer's screech, the ember-circling chuff, such an immense, soundless, and high concern for the fields and cities where the birds belong, except it was their seasonal passing, love, made seasonless, or from the high privilege of their birth, something brighter than pity for the wingless ones below them who shared dark holes in windows and in houses. And higher they lifted the net with soundless voices above all change, betrayals of falling suns. And this season lasted one moment, like the pause between dusk and darkness, between fury and peace. But for such an earth as ours is now, it lasted long. Thank you. Happy International Day of Peace.
Thank you, Robert. Simone Talma Flowers is the Executive Director of Interfaith Action of Central Texas, or IACT, whose mission is to cultivate peace and respect through interfaith dialogue, service, and celebration. She advances the mission of the organization by bringing people of diverse faiths, cultures, and backgrounds together to break down the barriers that divide us. Passionate about diversity and inclusion, she believes everyone, regardless of age, gender, religion, and culture, should have access to opportunities so they can live up to their fullest potential. Simone was recently named Communitarian of the Year by the Association of Fundraising Professionals Greater Austin Chapter. This prestigious award is bestowed upon an individual who has contributed in meaningful ways to the advancement of inclusion, diversity, equality, and access through giving of time and talent to build community, encourage philanthropy, and inspire others to action. Simone is always among the first to reply to our request to take part in Peace Day, and we are grateful for her contribution tonight. Here is Simone Talma Flowers.
Hello, I'm Simone Talma Flowers. Happy International Day of Peace. For Poems for Peace, I've chosen 3 poems from poets from different times. The first poem is from Langston Hughes, written in 1945 during World War II. The second is a recent poem by Nisma Bera about refugees, and the last poem is by 13th century mystic Jalaluddin Rumi. I chose these poems because they speak of peace, justice, humanity, respect, and interfaith understanding, issues we have been struggling with for a long time. Langston Hughes was a prolific writer, poet, novelist, and playwright, whose African American themes made him a primary contributor to the Harlem Renaissance. he addressed racial and social justice issues. His poem is called Give Us Our Peace. Give us a peace equal to the war, or else our souls will be unsatisfied, and we will wonder what we have fought for and why the many died. Give us a peace of accepting every challenge, the challenge of the poor, the black, of all denied, the challenge of the vast colonial world that long has so little justice by its side. Give us a peace that dares us to be wise. Give us a peace that dares us to be strong. Give us a peace that dares us still uphold throughout the peace our battle against wrong. Give us a peace that is not cheaply used, a peace that is no clever scheme, a people's peace for which men can enthuse, a peace that brings reality to our dream. Give us a peace that will produce great schools, as the war produced great armament, a peace that will wipe out our slums, as war wiped out foes and evil bent. Give us a peace that will enlist a mighty army serving humankind, not just an army geared to kill, but trained to help the living mind, an army trained to shape our common good and bring about a world of brotherhood. Langston Hughes. I recently learned about Nizma Abera through the Peace Studio. Nizma shared this poem, Scattered People, and dedicated it to her family, Eritrean refugees, and all those who have been hoping, striving, and building peace since the country gained independence in 1991. She states that the history of Eritrea's war, the ongoing human rights crisis, and its people's stories have unfortunately been ignored for so long. So she wanted to do her part to change that. To me, this poem also speaks for refugees and displaced people throughout the world. Scattered People. My grandmother sits alone like a tiny doll, her cream cotton scarf flowing gently over her head. She blows a kiss over a WhatsApp call from Sweden, raises a hand and prays in Tigrina for peace in the world, for the virus to go away, and for our family to be reunited under one roof. My mother is a quiet revolution. She escaped a war for a better life in America, taking care of patients who ask her where she's from, as she wonders what it would have been like if she stayed behind and served her people, where she wouldn't have to fight to use her degree. My countless relatives hover at borders, languish in crowded refugee camps, and sleep on ocean floors because they dared to seek the freedom our ancestors fought 30 years for, but have yet to witness. Tell me, how can you begin to build peace when the tools have been exiled, the historians have been imprisoned, and the rest of the world drinks your coffee but cannot even find you on a map? Our hands will only reach out as far as the mind can wander. These stories I gather of scattered people, scattered thoughts and scattered dreams from a homeland I've never been to, so that one day we can all come together and build a movement for justice that cannot be ignored. Nizma Abera. My last poem is by 13th century mystic Jalaluddin Rumi. Rumi speaks my language of interfaith understanding and working together. He speaks to the soul, connection with God, and about what really matters in life. Here is Rumi. Christian, Jew, Muslim, shaman, Zoroastrian, stone, ground, mountain, river, each has a secret way of being with the mystery, unique and not to be judged. Jalaluddin Rumi. Thank you, and peace be with you.
Thank you, Simone. Next up is Marc Pouhé. Marc is an actor based in Austin. His film credits include The Overbrook Brothers and Between Kings and Queens. He also appeared on television, including roles on Friday Night Lights and Prison Break. Titular theater roles include Cyrano de Bergerac, Othello, and Macbeth with Austin Shakespeare, and he performed the role of James Casey in The Grapes of Wrath, Davy Battle, Take Me Out, and Ebenezer Scrooge in A Christmas Carol for Zach Theatre. Marc is a winner of multiple Austin Critics Table Awards and a recipient of the John Booston Award for Conspicuous Versatility. He was recognized by the Austin Chronicle as the best of Austin, best classical leading man. Welcome, Marc Pouhé.
Let America be America again, by Langston Hughes. Let America be America again. Let it be the dream it used to be. Let it be the pioneer on the plain, seeking a home where he himself is free. America never was America to me. Let America be the dream the dreamers dreamed. Let it be the great, strong land of love where never kings connive nor tyrants scheme that any man be crushed by one above. It never was America to me. Oh, let my land be a land where liberty is crowned with no false patriotic wreath, but opportunity is real and life is free. Equality is in the air we breathe. There's never been equality for me, nor freedom in this homeland of the free. Say, who are you that mumbles in the dark? And who are you that draws your veil across the stars? I am the poor white, fooled and pushed apart. I am the Negro bearing slavery's scars. I am the red man driven from the land. I am the immigrant child clutching the hope I seek, and finding only the same old stupid plan of dog eat dog, of mighty crush the weak. I am the young man full of strength and hope, tangled in that ancient endless chain of profit, power, gain, of grab the land, of grab the gold, of grab the ways of satisfying need, of work the men, of take the pay, of owning everything for one's own greed. I am the farmer, bondsman to the soil. I am the worker, sold to the machine. I am the Negro, servant to you all. I am the people, humble, hungry, mean. Hungry yet today, despite the dream, beaten yet today, oh pioneers, I am the man who never got ahead. The poorest worker bartered through the years. Yet I'm the one who dreamt our basic dream in the old world while still a serf of kings, who dreamt a dream so strong, so brave, so true, that even yet its mighty daring sings in every brick and stone, in every furrow turned that's made America the land it has become. Oh, I'm the man who sailed those early seas in search of what I meant to be my home. For I'm the one who left dark Ireland's shore and Poland's plain and England's grassy lea, and torn from black Africa's strand I came to build a homeland of the free. The free? Who said the free? Not me, surely not me. The millions on relief today? The millions shot down when we strike? The millions who have nothing for our pay for all the dreams we've dreamed and all the songs we've sung and all the hopes we've held and all the flags we've hung? The millions who have nothing for our pay except the dream that's almost dead today. Oh, let America be America again. The land that never has been yet and yet must be, the land where every man is free. The land that's mine, the poor man's, Indians, Negroes, me. Who made America? Whose sweat and blood, whose faith and pain, whose hand at the foundry, whose plow in the rain, must bring back our mighty dream again. Sure, call me any ugly name you choose. The steel of freedom does not stain. From those who live like leeches on the people's lives, we must take back our land again, America. Oh yes, I say it plain. America never was America to me, and yet I swear this oath, America will be. Out of the rack and ruin of our gangsta death, the rape and rot of graft and stealth and lies, we, the people, must redeem the land, the mines, the plants, the rivers, the mountains, and the endless plain, and all the stretch of these great green states, and make America again.
One benefit of tonight's virtual version of Poems for Peace is that we can reach beyond the Austin city limits. Our next guest, Brenda Lopez, is a writer and storyteller who currently resides in New England. Brenda is a first-generation Mexican millennial woman. Her sun and moon signs are both in Cancer. She is a lover of bachata music and self-proclaimed pozole connoisseur. Her stories are grounded in love for her family and lessons from life's challenges. Brenda has been inspired to write more while in quarantine due to the pandemic and has found at life's most difficult junctures, creativity has been a source of peace for her. Let's hear now from Brenda Lopez.
Hi everyone, my name is Brenda Lopez and I am honored to be sharing an original piece of mine with you all today. It was inspired by the resilience of our people, of our communities, and also by the possibility of a much more peaceful, equitable, and liberating future. Here goes. There will be violent sandstorms that will seek to swallow us whole, to displace us and pull out the deep roots we managed into land that once rejected. Lurking vultures waiting for the moment to swoop down and infiltrate our skin, steal our exquisite nectar, to take what we did not offer. Travelers that will find our allure incredible but will only stay long enough to quench their thirst, then move on to their next destination. One day, a moment will happen that's worth shedding our thorns, and this love and abundance will fill us, allow us to grow and bloom flowers. And then a garden so fruitful will spread with the potential to transform the desert into an oasis. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Kurt Heinzelman is a poet, translator, and scholar. He has been publishing poetry for 30 years in such journals as Poetry, Poetry Northwest, Massachusetts Review, and Southwest Review. His most recent book of poems is Whatever You May Say, published in 2017. He is an honorary professor at Swansea University in Wales and a former director of creative writing at the University of Texas in Austin, where he continues to teach in the English department. Kurt is also the founding co-editor of the Poetry Miscellany and advisor and editor-at-large for Bat City Review, a literary journal and community devoted to supporting emerging and established writers and artists. Please welcome Kurt Heinzelman.
Good evening. The first poem I'm going to read this evening is one of the most peaceful poems I know. It's not about world peace, but it is about peacefulness. Perhaps one of the reasons I like it so much is that the poem takes place just a few miles from where my daughter and her family live. It's also, unfortunately, not far from where there are at present some wildfires in Southern California. The poem is by the great American poet Charles Wright. It's called Looking Across Laguna Canyon at Dusk, West by Northwest. And it begins with a line that riffs off the first line of St. Louis Blues, written by the wonderful Texas blues singer W.C. Handy. I love the way the evening sun goes down, orange brass plaque, life's lost logo, behind the Laguna Hills and bare night wisps of fog. I love the way the hills am purple and sky goes nectarine, the way the lights appear like little electric fig seeds, the wet west burnishing over into the indeterminate colors of the divine. Like others, I want to pour myself into the veins of the invisible at times like this, becoming all that's liquid and moist. Like Dionysus, I'd enter the atmosphere, spread and abandon. They'd have to look for me elsewhere then. Trickle of light extinguished in the Pacific. Dark sluice line. And the other poem I'd like to share with you is, in fact, about world peace, though it takes place at a site that is very unpromising for global passivity. The site is a burned car. It's not burned, we may infer, from wildfires, but, excuse me, rather from a terrorist attack or a rocket launch. It's by the great late Israeli poet Yehuda Amichai, and it's translated by the American poet and scholar Hannah Block. It's called First Rain on a Burned Car. The closeness of life to death near the corpse of a car at the roadside. You hear the raindrops on the rusty metal before you feel them on the skin of your face. The rains have come, redemption after death. Rust is more eternal than blood, more beautiful than the color of flames. The shock absorbers are calmer than the dead, who won't quiet down for a long time. A wind that is time alternates with a wind that is place, and God remains down here like a man who thinks he'd forgotten something and will stick around until he remembers. And at night, like a wondrous melody, you can hear man and machine on their slow journey from a red fire to a black peace, and from there to history, to archaeology, to the beautiful strata of geology. That too is eternity and a deep joy. Like human sacrifice that became animal sacrifice, then loud prayer, then prayer in the heart, and then no prayer at all. Thank you for inviting me to participate in this celebration of world peace in the year of such failed vision 2020.
Thank you, Kurt. Our next guest is a young artist with a passion for choral music and spoken word, Evan Blaché discovered his passion for choral music after making the TMEA All-Region Men's Choir while attending O. Henry Middle School. Evan has been part of the Amphion Youth Theater and was invited to sing under the direction of Eric Whitaker in 2018. Evan studied music at Austin Community College. While there, he was part of the Austin Community College Chamber and was part of the Texas 2-year All-State Choir for 3 years as the Bass 2 section leader. He currently studies at Texas State University and has been commissioned by various groups, including Vocem Cordis. Let's now hear from Evan Blaché.
Hi, my name is Evan Blaché, and I will be presenting 2 poems for International Peace Day. The first poem is called How to Get Peace. A little explanation of it is, it's basically my interpretation on how to get peace. Some of it is literal, it could be taken that way, or some of it even metaphorical. But this is at least an interpretation on how to get peace. How to get peace. How do we get peace? How do we get peace? Shouldn't we want peace? Peace can't be bought by peace. Sometimes you must fight for it. But be steadfast. Be steadfast with love. But be steadfast. Be steadfast with love. Don't be afraid to stand up. Do everything to stand up, since some cannot. Do everything to stand up, since some cannot. How do we get peace? The second poem is called Take Care of It. A small explanation of this one. For this one, this is my interpretation on once we get peace, we need to remember to take care of it, polish it, keep it going. Peace should last. So this is my poem about how could we take care of the peace once we get it, the thing we sought for the most. Take care of it. Love must come before peace. You cannot hate if you want peace. Peace is like glass, fragile and gentle. If you want it to last, you must take care of it. You must take care of it like a child, like your child, like a child of love. Take care of it. Give it your all. Love it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Evan. Deborah Hamilton-Lynne clearly recalls the first time she said out loud, "I am a writer." She describes it as a declaration of what she is, not what she does. She has had a love affair with words, their meanings, and their power her entire life. She has used her love of words and writing while working in advertising, marketing, public relations, nonprofit organizations, education, advocacy as a writer, content reader, and editor. She has written a syndicated column, scripts for television and film, plays for the stage, books, and many magazine articles. She claims her most interesting job was hosting a radio talk show, calling it the very best way to learn firsthand the power of persuasive and targeted argument, as well as a lesson in how to use words to trigger emotion and action. Tonight, Deborah shares her love of words with us. Here is Deborah Hamilton-Lynne.
I'm Deborah Hamilton-Lynne, and I was invited to choose poems for peace for International Peace Day to read. So being a writer, I thought what I needed to do before I could choose a poem was look up the definition of peace. And the definition of peace, according to Mr. Webster, is freedom from disturbance, tranquility, quiet, a calm state of mind, Second definition is harmony and agreement among people. And the third definition is freedom from war and strife. So those were my parameters when I decided I would choose these poems, and also what peace means to me. I'm here in an absolutely beautiful, appropriately named spot, Peace Point, at the bend of the Colorado River in Lake Austin at the Lake Austin Spa, and feeling very tranquil and blessed. First poem I'd like to read is a poem by Judith Hill. She's a living American poet, author, writer, and performer. And I heard her read this poem in Santa Fe many years ago. And even though I believe that this poem was written a long time ago, it speaks to the collective thought that we're all having and trying to navigate these sort of chaotic times. The name of the poem is Wage Peace. Wage peace with your breath. Breathe in firemen and rubble. Breathe out whole buildings and flocks of red-winged blackbirds. Breathe in terrorists and breathe out sleeping children in freshly mown lawns. Breathe in confusion and breathe out maple trees. Breathe in the fallen and breathe out lifelong friendships intact. Wage peace with your listening. Hearing sirens, pray loud. Remember your tools, flower seeds, clothespins, and clear rivers. Make soup. Play music and memorize the words for thank you in 3 languages. Learn to knit and make a hat. Think of chaos as dancing raspberries. Imagine grief as the outbreath of beauty or the gesture of fish. Swim for the other side. Wage peace. Never has the world seemed so fresh and precious. Have a cup of tea and rejoice. Act as if armistice has already arrived. Celebrate today. Second poem is a poem by a young man named Matty Stefanik. Some of you may have seen him on Oprah or other shows. He was a rare and extraordinary human being. He was born with muscular dystrophy and wrote his first poem when he was 3. He died when he was 14 in 2004, and I've always loved his poetry and his innocence and actually just purity of thought. He wrote, during his life when he was only 14, he had written 7 best-selling books and poems and peace essays. And what he said was he wanted to be remembered as a poet, a peacemaker, and a philosopher who played. And this is my favorite of his poems. The name of the poem is Heart Song. I have a song deep in my heart, and only I can hear it. If I close my eyes and sit very still, it is so easy to listen to my song. When my eyes are open and I am busy and moving and busy, if I take time and listen very hard, I can still hear my heart song. It makes me very happy. Happier than ever, happier than everywhere and everything and everyone in the world. Happy like thinking about going to heaven when I die. My heart song goes like this. I love you, how happy you can be, how happy you can make this world be. And sometimes it's other tunes and other words too, but it always sings the same special song. But do you know what? All people have a special song inside their hearts. Everyone in the whole world has a special heart song. If you believe in magical musical hearts, and if you believe you can be happy, then you too will hear your heart song. The next poem is by Mary Oliver. Mary Oliver is my favorite poet, and she passed away last year in 2019. She's a Pulitzer Prize winner, and most of her poems speak to me on a deeply personal level. I heard her speak as well, and she believed, as I do, that peace must first come from within each of us, and the way to find peace is to learn to love yourself for who you are and to accept yourself for who you are. This is one of her lesser-known poems that's very short, but I actually relate to this one as far as peace personally. The name of the poem is The World I Live In. I've refused to live locked in the orderly house of reason and proofs. The world I live in and believe in is wider than that. And anyway, what's wrong with maybe? You wouldn't believe what once or twice I have seen. I'll just tell you this. Only if there are angels in your head will you ever possibly see one. The last poem I want to read is a poem by Wendell Berry. He is a living novelist, poet, an environmental activist. And the reason I wanted to include this, especially here today, is because I feel like in nature you seek the final definition of peace, which is tranquility, harmony, calm state of mind, and being able to connect with the divine, and also being able to appreciate the fact that you're just part of a bigger world. So the name of the poem is The Peace of Wild Things. When despair in the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting for their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world, and I am free.
Thank you, Deborah. We have a special treat to close out tonight's remarkable program. The Austin Gay Men's Chorus formed in 1989 as the Capital City Men's Chorus. It began with just 16 members under the musical direction of volunteer artistic director David Weigel. During the 30th season, after a long history of growth as a community, the chorus officially changed its name to the Austin Gay Men's Chorus, now led by artistic director Dr. Daniel Arredondo II. The chorus is more than 120 members strong, and tonight they offer us a special virtual performance with over 50 voices to bring us a fresh and opulent rendition of I Love You, Wonderful World. Please enjoy this performance by the Austin Gay Men's Chorus.
We can be together now and forever. I love you, I love you. And when I'm praying, I hear him saying, I love you, I love you. People all over the world, they're opening up, they're coming around, and they're saying, I love you.
Great thanks to the Austin Gay Men's Chorus. We would also like to thank the wonderful folks at the Umlauf Sculpture Garden and Museum for graciously providing us this gorgeous space for tonight's broadcast. The treasured gardens and museum are currently open to the public by appointment with new health and safety protocols in place. Visit them online at umlaufsculpture.org for more information on in-person visits and virtual programming. Thank you to Peace Day Austin for producing this event, and to Todd Hogan Sanchez of Motley Crue Media for helping to promote the event with local media outlets. Special thanks to our videographer Eric Mock, Catalina Berry for helping coordinating and editing tonight's program. KMFA Classical 89.5 is a proud media sponsor for Poems for Peace. And another special thank you to all of our readers this evening for sharing the magnificent poetry with all of us. If you enjoyed tonight's event, you can learn more about the International Day of Peace and local initiatives to celebrate at peacedayaustin.org. I'm Dianne Donovan from KMFA Classical 89.5. Thank you and have a wonderful and peaceful evening.